Subaru Outback's got more headroom than a Cherokee.
Uh-huh.
The ground clearance of an Explorer.
So you said.
Ride smooth as any car.
Got any more of those tidbits?
What, like more stability in a turn than a Chevy Blazer?
Sure, that'll do.
That's my Subaru Outback. World's first sports utility wagon.
The final word for the defense, Christopher Darden and Marcia Clark take on race and reaffirm the evidence. NBC News in depth tonight, 4 experts trying to get inside the jury's thinking. And all across the country, you, the jury, what people are saying about this long national trial.
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Well, it's over, this stage at least. Marcia Clark has concluded her rebuttal arguments. Nothing about this trial has been swift and neat and predictable from the beginning. It's been a bitter, contentious, drawn-out courtroom brawl, and it's ending as it began.
You will find
but then the stakes are so high, 2 victims brutally murdered, a celebrity defendant facing life in prison. Tonight, the prosecutors took distinctly different approaches in their rebuttal arguments, but they arrived at the same place. O.J. Simpson, they say, is a murderer, and that's what this case is all about. This is NBC's David Bloom.
Today, in the prosecution's final moments, a soft-spoken Christopher Darden.
No one's above the law. Not the police, not the rich.
Brought the courtroom to a hush with a simmering intensity.
Testimony, you know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows he killed.
Darden telling the black majority jury, you cannot eradicate racism by acquitting O.J. Simpson.
You just need to calm down. Take that common sense God gave you. Go back in the jury room. Don't let these people get you all riled up and all fired up because Furman is a racist.
Darden urged jurors not to be misled by the fiery rhetoric they'd heard from defense attorney Johnny Cochran.
Smoke, ladies and gentlemen. They are blowing smoke.
But the prosecutor was as impassioned as his nemesis. Yesterday, Cochran implored jurors to be guardians of the Constitution. Today, it was Darden's turn.
And the Constitution said that Ron and Nicole had the right to liberty. It said that they had the right to life. It said that they had a right to the pursuit of happiness. And I looked further, and I looked in the Constitution to see if it said anything about O.J. Simpson, and you know what it said? It said he doesn't have the right to take those lives. He did not have the right to do what he did.
Cochran, who had played the race card so forcefully the day before, was relegated to the role of objecting again and again as prosecutors, because they have the burden of proof, got the last word.
They talk about courage. Courage is what Marcia Clark and I do every day. It's time to stand up. It is time to stand up.
The families of murder victims Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson listened approvingly, but defense attorneys were beside themselves. Cochran at times incredulous, at other points amused. But when prosecutor Marcia Clark...
I took a cut in pay to join this office because I believe in this job.
Responded directly to the defense attack.
I can get up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror and say, I tell you the truth.
Simpson's lawyers exploded.
If I thought for 1 minute there was a conspiracy...
Be seated.
With jurors gone, frustrated defense lawyers blasted Clark for misleading the jury.
But this is way, way over the line.
Judge Lancito warning the prosecutor.
We're close here, counsel.
It was that kind of day. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse. While inside, with the defense constantly objecting,
sit down.
Clark went point by point over the physical evidence and scoffed at the defense theory that blood was planted.
This is ridiculous. Talk about makes no sense. Talk about...
It was a vicious fight to the finish. Prosecutors unlikely to wrap up their case until later today. Jury deliberations most likely beginning Monday. David Bloom, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Joining me again tonight from Los Angeles, Ira Reiner and Jack Ford. Gentlemen, you have selected a moment from today's proceedings that we want to share with our audience and then comment on it. It was Christopher Darden. Let's see that now.
It is true that Furman is racist. And it is also true that he killed these two people.
It put the case back on O.J. Simpson's side of the aisle. Jack Ford, do you think that that was an effective moment for the prosecution?
I think it was very important, Tom, for the prosecution to take that approach. Somehow they had to separate the concept of Mark Furman and his racist comments, and they accepted that. They said he is, in fact, a racist, but somehow they had to separate that from the rest of the trial here. And what they did is, the prosecutor stood up and said, look, you can accept he's a racist. We've accepted that. It's a terrible thing, but that does not mean that you should let O.J. Simpson go free. So it was a very important moment for the prosecution.
Ira, I know that you believe that the prosecution is over-arguing the case, but Marcia Clark was given a challenge by Johnny Cochran. All those questions, doesn't she have to get into the minutia of the evidence?
No, I don't think she does. This case has gone on far too long, and it's been over-tried and over-argued. I think they should have stopped with what Chris Darden did. Chris Darden directly addressed the one fear that the prosecution has had in this case from the beginning, and that is the perceived reluctance on the part of this jury to convict O.J. Simpson, even if they believe he's guilty. In effect, what Darden said to this jury today is that not even O.J. Simpson should be allowed to get away with murder. Darden pled with the jury. Don't ignore the facts. Don't ignore the law. And for Pete's sake, do not send a message. Just do what you know in your heart is right. That's the message the prosecution had to deliver. That's when they should have stopped.
Ira Reiner and Jack Ford will be seeing you later here on NBC Nightly News as we take you and other experts through this trial and what you think the jury may be thinking at this hour. More on the trial when we come back. NBC News in depth. The jury, what effect the closing arguments may be having on those people, what you have not seen.
Introducing the new no-fee Ford Citibank card. With every purchase, you get an amazing 5% Ford rebate that grows toward the purchase or red carpet lease of a new Ford or Lincoln Mercury, like an Explorer, a Continental, or even a Mustang. Which means you can save big and really knock down your monthly car payment. All with the superior services of Citibank. Call 1-800-374-7777 for the new no-fee Ford Citibank card.
It's a great time to be silver because you're over 50 and you haven't lost your edge. Now there's a Centrum made just for you. Centrum Silver for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
Okay, I don't see much in here, just kind of flakes. There's nothing wrong with flakes per se. You know, flakes can be very useful when you're making a meatloaf or your bread and fish. Anywho, I'll give them a go. You know, just a little skosh, okay? Because I had the cupcake and the... Ooh, you know, hold on. They are, you know what they are? They are tasty. They are crispy and they are crunchy.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Oh, boy. That's a hoot.
Taste them again for the first time.
Introducing the only denture cleanser with Listerine ingredients. New Epident Plus to fight denture odor. It kills 99.9% of the germs that cause denture odor, so you can get this close. New Epident Plus. Kill the germs. Kill the odor.
Hey, man.
Hey. I'm making some grilled cheese sandwiches. You want one?
Sure. Dear Alfred.
Alfred?
Here are a couple things to make living on your own a little easier. Love, Mom.
Cool. Yikes.
Hey, check this out.
Nothing turns a sandwich into a satisfying meal like rich, wholesome Campbell's tomato soup. So you know your family's eating right, even when you can't be there to cook for them.
There's nothing like a home-cooked meal.
You said it, Alfred.
On this pivotal day, we're looking at the Simpson trial in depth tonight. The spotlight is finally on the only players in this drama who have not become household names or faces, the jury. The jury has a staggering amount of material to consider. The trial transcript. It started when Simpson was arraigned. It runs to almost 50,000 pages, 120 witnesses, more than 400 exhibits. Where does that leave the members of the jury? Well, NBC's Kelly O'Donnell has been watching them closely. and she begins our in-depth report.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Day one, Marcia Clark leads off for the prosecution. She faces the 10 by 30-foot jury box where 2 men, 10 women, and 2 alternates sit for their 139th day in session. In the early going, jurors appear unfocused.
Many jurors seeming to tune her out, not really emotionally involved with Marcia Clark.
Juror 6 in the front row, a 43-year-old African-American man who works as a marketing rep. He looks worn out.
In parts of Marcia Clark's argument, I saw him fighting to keep his eyes open.
But later, all eyes turn.
I will show you a couple of photographs.
Clark describes the victim's suffering and shows murder scene pictures only those in the courtroom can see. Jurors' attention moves from Clark to sobbing families just feet away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
By the time she hands off to Christopher Darden, the jury is alert.
Jurors that previously we felt were hostile to Christopher Darden suddenly came alive. They were riveted by him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Day 2, Darden is back before the jury and plays the tape of Nicole Brown Simpson's 911 call in 1993.
911 emergency. Can you get someone over here now? I saw one woman, juror number 12, really just studying the family for several seconds.
Number 12 is the oldest of the group, 71, a black woman and retired housekeeper. She wears glasses and occasionally offers a kindly glance to those of us who watch her.
That fuse is burning.
Darden captivates them. He paints Simpson as explosive with rage.
They were absolutely riveted by him. I mean, their eyes are wide. They're looking.
Let me show you something. This is a knit cap.
Now the defense is on. In a theatrical move, Johnny Cochran tries on the knit cap. Quiet laughter from the audience, not from the jury.
They're listening. They're paying attention. I don't see any of them saying, oh, wow, this is amazing.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen.
Day 3, Cochran is on fire. His summation builds like a sermon. Several black jurors nod in understanding.
1 year and 2 days after we met.
Later, juror 7, she's 44 and repairs computers, calls for a brief break, then returns.
She was taking a tissue, blowing her nose, wiping tears for about 20 minutes as Johnny Cochran was talking about this jury's responsibility.
In the front row, number 3, a 60-year-old white woman turns to find Ron Goldman's father, Fred, in the audience.
She seemed to be sympathizing with him and making note that Mr. Cochran apparently referred to the victim's father.
Cochran compares Mark Furman to Hitler. Several jurors shrink back in their seats.
I think they were affected by just how awful Furman was. But at another level, they might be saying, hey, don't overstate the case.
That's genocidal racism.
While Cochran acts out in passion, the jury is careful not to show emotion.
We've come full circle again, it seems.
Day 4, Darden's return. Juror 9, a 52-year-old African-American woman, sits with arms crossed, looking uncomfortable and unreceptive. But as the prosecution argues for Simpson's guilt and against conspiracy, jurors take notes and take it all in. What it all means? Only the jury will know when they start deliberating and discussing the case. Despite our courtroom observations, they will tell us with their verdict. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Now, what are the jury's options? Well, they could convict O.J. Simpson of the first-degree murder of his ex-wife, Ronald Goldman, or both, and that would mean life in prison, probably without parole. Or they could convict him of 1 or 2 counts of second-degree murder, each carrying a sentence of 15 years to life. They could find him not guilty. Or they could fail to agree unanimously on any verdict. In that case, prosecutors have promised a retrial. And what do we think that they'll do? Well, joining me once again, 4 experts who have followed this long, complicated trial with us. Paul Wisnick, who is an expert on juries. Robert Tarver, a well-known criminal lawyer. And our regular pair of legal commentators, Jack Ford and Ira Reiner. Gentlemen, very quickly, around the horn, beginning with you, Paul, what do you think the verdict will be?
Tom, I'm convinced there won't be a hung jury here. This jury doesn't want anybody else to have to go through it. If they talk about what O.J. Simpson did that night and what happened, I think we'll see a conviction. If they get lost in the science or want to send a message, O.J. Simpson walks.
Mr. Tarver?
Tom, I think that the defense has put themselves in a very good legal position for an acquittal at this point.
Ira Reiner?
It's only a minor hyperbole to say that if you're going to bet on a conviction, you should get DNA-type odds. I mean, 100 million to 1. I think this will be a hung jury, but there's a very substantial possibility of acquittal.
And Jack Ford?
Tom, you know, I've sat in the courtroom a lot of days, watched these jurors, listened to almost all of the testimony in the case, and I have to tell you candidly, I have no idea what they're going to do. If they're inclined to convict him, there's evidence in the record that allow him to do that. If they're inclined to acquit him, there's evidence there also. Because it's such an emotional issue, that's the type of case where you often see a hung jury. I think the real wild card here, Tom, however, is the introduction of second-degree murder as a possible compromise type of verdict.
Let the record show that we have lawyers here. They're arguing all sides of the question, as they often do. The lawyers are in peril when they try to guess the outcome of juries. Mr. Tarver, let's begin with you. Do you think that Christopher Darden neutralized Johnny Cochran's appeal yesterday to the question of racism within the LAPD and corruption?
I'm not sure that he did. I think it was important for him to come out again and make the differentiation between racism and the fact that O.J. Simpson may have done this. However, you've got to go one step further. You've got to talk about how the cops could not have been in a position to carry this thing out. And I don't know that they accomplished that today.
And Paul Lisnick, what about the prosecution going with Darden first, who was so eloquent and so low-key and addressed what many members of that jury will be thinking about because it reflects their own experiences, and then following with Marcia Clark and a lot of scientific detail? Would it have been better to end with Darden?
In foresight, we would have put Darden first. In hindsight, he did a phenomenal job, Tom. He reached the heart and souls of those jurors, and it's hard to see Marcia Clark ending with as big a bang as Chris Darden did. But we had to neutralize what Johnny Cochran had done, and so I won't second-guess that strategy. I think it may play out just fine if Marcia ends with a strong note.
Ira Reiner, you're a former Los Angeles district attorney. You know the community and the culture well. What about the race card?
Well, the race card was played, and it was played very strongly. You know, the defense is not responsible for creating the racial tension that clearly surrounded this trial, but they enthusiastically exploited it for all that they could, and they really beat the band with it. And I'm afraid that, A, it's going to have a real impact on this trial, and B, I really am concerned with the impact it's going to have beyond this trial within the city of Los Angeles.
Jack Ford, you have been out there and witnessed all of this. If, in fact, it goes to a hung jury and it means that O.J. Simpson must be retried, what are the consequences here?
Tom, that's a real problem for the defense here. Second time around, the prosecution is not going to have the problems they had the first time around. I am certain you won't even see Mark Fuhrman have anything to do with this case, and that would take away the defense's ability to introduce Mark Fuhrman into it for all intents and purposes. I think one of the worst results for the defense here would be a hung jury. Oftentimes for the defense, that's a good thing because the defense attorneys then walk into the prosecutor and said, look, we all took our best shot. We weren't able to do it. Let's work something out we can all live with. That will not happen in this case. District attorney said, we'll retry the case. It would be much more difficult for the defense a second time around.
Mr. Tarver, do you think that there will be a call both at the national level and at the state level for some changes in the criminal justice system? For example, jury verdicts that do not have to be unanimous?
I think that that's inevitable. The call is inevitable. However, I think that once we sit back and really reflect that these are things that go on every day in courtrooms across America, we may recognize that the system is not as broken as people think it is.
And Paul Lisnick, you are our expert on juries. What's your best guess about how long they'll be out?
Tom, that it's so tough to predict that, and any guess would really have to be wrong. If I'm going to be smarter than the average bear, I would tell you they could be back very soon if there's simple agreement. The only suggestion I'd make is if they're out for quite a while, that would tell us that they're in conflict, and that could be the sign of the hung jury.
All right, Paul Lisnick, Robert Tarver, Jack Ford, and Ira Reiner, thanks all very much. When we come back, some of the day's other news, new developments in the Medicare battle, and the presidential race.
I don't want to spend my life working on a medicine that might help my grandchildren. There are people that need it now. They can't wait.
There are millions of people counting on us.
There are patients out there that are sick now that we can have an impact on.
I come to work thinking, you know, I want to improve the situation for people.
Tomorrow might be the day. Medicines to the patient faster.
We're going to get the answers.
Glaxo Welcome, on the brink of discovery. Presenting Casey.
Pound for pound, he uses more energy than most dogs twice his size. That's why we make Mighty Dog. It has the perfect balance of nutrients he needs. It makes your dog a Mighty Dog.
Introducing an Alka-Seltzer that goes where no Alka-Seltzer has gone before. New Alka-Seltzer caplets. Now you can get fast relief for acid indigestion or heartburn with headache in an easy-to-swallow caplet. Anytime, anywhere. New Alka-Seltzer caplets.
Well, we're here with Wanda and Babs, who feel that their zipper bag is fine and will not switch to Gladlock zipper bags.
That's right. Ditto.
Now, Babbo, let's say you hold some of your famous chicken gravy upside down over Wanda's head, sealed in either your bag or the Gladlock bag with the yellow and blue make green seal, so you know the bag is closed. Your bag doesn't have a green seal.
Well, I say let's go for it with our bag. Why switch? Because it's my head. We'll switch to Gladlock.
Good call, Wanda. When it really counts, get Gladlock.
When this happens at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, it's trouble. But when it's 7:30 on a Saturday night and this happens, it's a disaster.
Mr. Rooter's on the job. Day and night, 7 days a week, Mr. Rooter's on the job.
From major catastrophes to minor clogs, call Mr. Rooter for the help you need at a price that's right. We never charge extra for overtime. Day and night, 7 days a week, Mr. Rooter's on the job.
Identify yourself. Do you go for the gusto? Go out on a limb? Go full speed ahead? Go where no man has gone before? Or are you a cornflake eater? Guess not. You go for the adrenaline-pumping, milk-defying taste of Wheaties, made with wall-to-wall, indoor, outdoor, toasty, tasty, 100% whole wheat. A whole mouthful of flavor. It's the whole Megillah. So for taste that goes all out, go for the over-the-top taste of whole wheat Wheaties.
Now the commemorative Cal Ripken Jr. box.
Saturday on Today, with the Simpson case ready to go to the jury, what lies ahead? Our experts will have some inside analysis. So join us Saturday and see what a difference today makes.
Tonight's Medicare debate, House Republicans finally have made public the details of their plan to save $270 billion in Medicare over 7 years. A growing worry of some Senate Republicans, however, is that voters may think those savings will be used to cut taxes for the rich. California Governor Pete Wilson is dropping out of the Republican presidential race, way behind in the polls. Wilson is the first Republican candidate to get out, saying he would be left with just too much debt. Overseas, U.S. envoy Richard Holbrooke back in Bosnia for more shuttle diplomacy and meeting today with leaders of the Muslim-led Bosnian government. Not much movement, however, toward a ceasefire, with renewed fighting near the Serb stronghold of Banja Luka. On Okinawa, 2 U.S. Marines and a sailor have been charged with raping a schoolgirl. They've now been handed over to local authorities. The United States had refused to turn the 3 over until formal charges were filed today, infuriating the people on that island, home to most of the U.S. troops in Japan. On Wall Street, the Dow was up today in very heavy trading. The NASDAQ was down, which is how they both finished for the week. When we come back, how some other Americans feel about the O.J. Simpson trial as the jury prepares to deliberate.
Years ago, we promised to take care of each other.
We sure did.
And today, we're taking better care of our health with Ensure.
More than a vitamin supplement, Ensure is a delicious drink with all the nutrients adults need to help stay healthy, active, be energetic.
Drink Ensure as a meal.
Or in between meals.
Ensure is recommended #1 by doctors as a source of complete balanced nutrition.
Ensure to your health.
To our health.
Also try Ensure High Protein. It's low in saturated fat.
Over the last 150 years, all kinds of companies that said they'd be there when you needed them didn't stand up to their promises. That's life. Our policy of thoughtful, prudent investing has kept us, well, a pillar of strength for the last 150 years. That's New York Life, the company you keep.
Last week, we thought we had a 24-hour bug.
But we may have had a mild case of salmonella poisoning.
It came from bacteria, which was spread around our kitchen to other foods.
Now we use Lysol antibacterial kitchen cleaner. As it cleans, it kills the bacteria and keeps them from spreading.
Which may help keep us from getting sick. Get Lysol antibacterial kitchen cleaner.
Lysol spray use number 66, Junior's launch pad. Lysol disinfectant spray. There's nothing this can't do.
Rice Krispie treats?
Melba made them.
Never met her. She's a hard-working gal. Took her 10 minutes. Said they were low fat.
Low fat?
Which one do you care about fat?
How do you think I keep my girlish figure?
Kellogg's Rice Krispies Treats? What other cereal sounds so good?
Kellogg's Halloween Rice Krispies in special yellow and orange colors to make your Halloween list scream. Considering the fact that we haven't introduced an entirely new Range Rover in 25 years, we thought the least we could do was show it to you.
Next week on Today, O.J.'s fate is in the jury's hands. Join Bryant and Katie live from Los Angeles as we wait for the verdict. Next week on Today.
Not since Watergate has this country been so collectively engaged in a question of guilt or innocence. Even the most casual viewer has an opinion on the strategy, the credibility, the style of the lawyers, the judges, the witnesses, and O.J. Simpson. What do you think? Here's NBC National correspondent Bob Kerr tonight, listening to America.
And what did they really see with their flashlights?
Even those who'd become bored and turned off, turned on again this week. Millions going out of their way to watch.
You get very involved in it after a while. It's very emotional. And 2 people were brutally murdered, and you want to see justice done.
It's not a trial anymore. It's more of, it's an American institution.
The action at this pool hall was at the bar, on TV.
I've enjoyed watching it. I've enjoyed the excitement and the tenseness of it.
As our national exercise in endurance comes to an end, everyone has an opinion.
I think if they even had him on tape doing it and admitting it, he'd still get off. I mean, I think his defense seems that good.
Have they created reasonable doubt? They've done that.
So, or a doubt. I don't know if it's reasonable or not, but people have a doubt. Everybody knows he's guilty anyway.
The racial divide is huge.
They have no facts. They can't really say he did it, so I think it's a possibility he's going to get off.
Putting the brother through so much don't make no sense.
A racist is somebody who has power over you.
Johnny Cochran, I didn't agree with him. And I think O.J. Simpson is guilty.
I'll tell you what the message was.
Law students watching at school are divided too. Some say Cochran had to focus on something other than evidence. Others believe he stepped over the line.
I think it kind of makes the legal system look ridiculous.
You're an advocate. You're not there to be a saint. You're there to be your client's advocate.
It's hard to say that he went too far because most black Americans in this country have had serious problems with the police.
I was going to be a lawyer. I changed my mind because of this.
And while some say the trial has done some good,
I just like the fact that some of the issues, like some women's issues, domestic violence, and the issues that came out of it, and the education is happening here.
Others believe it may end up doing more harm than good.
I'm really saddened because I have children, and they're watching someone with money be able to buy justice.
And there was this.
It's not over. I think we've just begun to see the consequences of a trial like this.
The courtroom drama may be over soon, but we may be a long time putting this case behind us. Bob Kerr, NBC News.
And that is the concern, of course, that whatever the verdict in this case, the statute of limitations will not run out for a long, long time on the many divisions that it has caused. That's Nightly News for Friday. Brian Williams will be here tomorrow night with all of the news, and, of course, he'll have the latest on the Simpson trial as it now goes to the jury. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you back here Monday.